Hello and welcome back to coverage here from Grand Prix Las Vegas in sunny, well, it's nighttime now, Nevada. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm in the booth with Gavin Verheyen. We're off to the races here. Pyrite Spellbomb is the first play for Neal Oliver on the left side after a vivid land. And Madison Jonas, he has got a suspended ephemeron. You know, we were talking about that card all weekend as one of the better commons in the format, Gavin.
Yeah, I talked to a lot of pros, and they all felt like that was the one common they really wanted above most other commons in the set. And he's got two of them in his deck here that he ended up in.
Now we're going to see if this is a fair fight. Neal Oliver has been bringing Moth Dust changelings to the battlefield, and I saw him in his last semifinal match versus Dusty Ochoa win with a Moth Dust changeling and not a whole lot else. There was a Blink Moth Nexus that he kept using to pump it or give it flying, and also a Bone Splitter, but it was incredible.
And once again, those changelings doing good work, getting pumped up by a Blink Moth Nexus. Not what you would expect necessarily.
That's right. And it looks like Neal Oliver had an interesting choice there on turn 3. Decided to run out the Flicker Wisp and get the pressure going early. Make no mistake, even though the colors don't necessarily look like it, his deck is very much the aggressor in this matchup.
Yeah, Madison's deck is a super strong deck with a lot of removal spells. You know, he's got Fiery Fall, Glacial Ray, Rift Bolt, Torrent of Stone, Tribal Flames. Madison can pick off creatures left and right. He's got Air and Ephemeron. He's got the Kiki Jiki Pestermite combo.
Yeah, there was a certain
Vidalcan
artifact
Shackles.
Vidalcan Shackles there too that is an absolutely fantastic artifact in this format. And that is a great play here for Neal Oliver. This is going to give Madison one turn to draw some red or try to get rid of some of these flyers. If Neal gets to untap, it is going to be amazing. And he doesn't. He doesn't find any more mana at all. And all of a sudden, Neal Oliver has 5 power in the air that he can start attacking with. There's a Pestermite, though.
Right, Glenlender Archmage is awesome against Madison's deck full of removal spells because you can just counter it with the Archmage. You could even counter Vidalcan Shackles if that's something that you think
that's right.
Madison could draw into.
I got a question. What do you think about running this out pre-combat? Wouldn't you rather let him attack with Flicker Wisp first and then play Pestermite to try to get it to try to block, or are you just going to do it anyway because that way Spellbomb is going to get used no matter what?
I think I like doing it inside combat and you know, taking a little extra damage and forcing him to use the Spellbomb because I don't know if he'd necessarily use the Spellbomb there. Turns out Neal did crack the Spellbomb to kill the Pestermite off anyway.
Okay, so it just depends on if you think he's going to for sure use the Spellbomb or not.
Right.
Okay, or if you want him to use the Spellbomb. As look, now we have Madison has drawn red. He's going to draw 4 mana and he's going to play Grand Arbiter Augustine. Well, nothing to be done about that, but frankly, I don't know that Neal Oliver really cares about that card that much at this point. He is where he wants to be with a bunch of powerful flyers in the air and a Glenlender Archmage on the table to protect from anything crazy. Now, one of the things that we're going to have to keep an eye on, though, is that Air and Ephemeron ticking away at the top.
And that's a Muldrifter I see in his hand, and it's pretty, yep, here we go. Muldrifter enters the battlefield, picks up 2 more cards for Neal. Suddenly he has 7 points of flying power on the board, serves them for 6 with the Flicker Wisp, Glenlender Archmage, and the Flying Moth Dust Changeling, tapping the Muldrifter to give the Changeling flying.
That's right.
Yikes.
Madison now, he did tap out here, though, Gavin, so there is an opening for Madison to find a way to resolve a removal spell or Vidalcan Shackles or something through that Glenlender Archmage.
Absolutely, and we know Madison has a Glacial Ray. I think he has another removal spell in his hand, too, so.
All right, Flicker Wisp down. Wow, kills 2 of them. He certainly made full use of that opportunity, and next turn, he gets an Air and Ephemeron, so things are starting to swing back towards Madison Jonas's direction here. Let's see what Neal can do to keep the momentum on his side.
And once again, that's exactly why the pros love Ephemeron so much. You just suspend it on turn 2, you just do things for a little while, you kill off their creatures, you trade a little bit, and then out of nowhere, a 4/4 just comes crashing in, serving to deal damage.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Madison's not at 17. I think he was at 11, and I think he's at 8 now. But we'll try to get that updated as soon as we can to make sure that we have all the right numbers. There's an Avian Changeling for Neal Oliver and a couple of blue mana, so there will be no flurry of burn spells this turn.
Worth noting is Neal's holding a Spell Stutter Sprite, which goes for 4 right now due to the 2 Changelings and the Glenlender Archmage.
Oh, man. And Madison just passes the turn back, and he's okay to just sit behind his Errant Ephemeron.
Oh, there's a Bone Splitter. If he hooks that up to the Avian Changeling, then that could attack right into that Ephemeron.
Wow, that's fantastic. Even the Glenlender Archmage could as well, but yeah, I like the Changeling here.
And he does indeed put it on the Changeling. Gets in for 4. Madison is forced to block with that Ephemeron.
Yeah, here we go. Madison's actually at 5 right now.
Yikes.
Now,
now interesting, Neal opted to not play a Moth Dust Changeling there.
he didn't. Why do you think he did that?
Probably wants to keep Spellstutter Sprite mana up because of Grand Arbiter Augustin. All of Neal's spells cost 1 more to cast.
Okay.
So he wanted to be able to do that. But there's definitely an interesting choice to be made there.
He also didn't equip.
Right. I guess he wants to be able to Spellstutter Sprite and leave up mana to activate the Archmage too if he wanted to.
Madison Jonas passes the turn back. Neal Oliver off to a quick start here. And he has Madison Jonas up against the ropes. Is he going to be able to finish him off here? Is that a Pestermite?
That is a Pestermite he just drew.
Now that's a Moth Dust Changeling. You'll notice he paid an extra mana because of Grand Arbiter Augustin the 4th there. He's going to tap this to give it flying, and he's going to attack for lethal damage here. 5 in the air.
Torn of Stone is going to try and make it happen, but that Spellstutter Sprite should counter that nonsense.
He can counter it, but that will prevent 2 of the damage. But here is a Spellstutter Sprite for 3 mana, and he's going to counter it.
Yep.
And that's it. Game 1 goes to Neal Oliver.
And did you see he had the shackles in his hand at the end of the game?
Did he really?
He had the shackles in his hand.
Wow.
Neal Oliver's Glenlender Archmage keeps shackles off the table. This is like extended in 2005. Complete with Moth Dust Changelings, you know, but
now I have to say, after Neal's gotten a look at what Madison Jonas is working with, even without the shackles there, he's got to feel pretty under the gun here. He is his creatures are very, very fragile and will be dying to all of the burn spells that Madison Jonas has in the deck. Neal Oliver had a fortunate draw there to set up the Glenelender Archmage and to be able to prevent shackles and that kind of stuff from happening. Imagine, though, if Madison Jonas had been able to resolve those shackles, Neal Oliver would have had a heck of a time winning that game. So he's going to have to potentially make some drastic sideboard decisions and adjustments here, else Madison Jonas can really tear apart his board state potentially.
Yeah, I'm looking at Neal Oliver's sideboard here too, and there's not exactly a lot of things that could tear apart a Vedalken Shackles. He has an Echoing Truth, which is a reasonable card you could bring in. But other than that, he really does not have any good options for fighting off that powerful artifact. I mean, there's always my favorite plan of hope they don't draw it, but you can't really guarantee on that one.
No, and I mean, you know, you wouldn't consider that a plan, but there are 2 games going forward here, and I mean, there's only one of them in Madison Jonas's deck, and if it is what it is, then he just has to do it that way.
Of course, the big go ahead.
Yeah, let's take a look at the upcoming events real quickly here. Grand Prix Miami at the end of the month here. It's in Standard. That's going to be covered by SCG Live, so you can tune into twitch.tv/SCG Live and Daily MTG for the link to catch that. Everybody loves Standard, great city, and they're going to be celebrating probably until then.
And a great format now, too. I mean, Standard is doing really well. It's very diverse, a lot of cool decks you can play in this format, and new stuff seems to pop up every single week.
Which is kind of what you want, I'm assuming, since you work in R&D.
Oh, absolutely.
And the next one after that is the following weekend. It's Grand Prix Kansas City. It's Modern. It's my personal favorite constructed format. If I got to play 60 cards, I'd like to play some Modern.
Me too. Modern, also my favorite constructed format.
Hey,
so
me and you,
there
buddy.
You go.
Yep, and you can. We're going to be broadcasting. In fact, I'm going to be there doing that event. You can check it out at twitch.tv/magic or at dailymtg.com to find the links.
Yeah, I'm excited for that Modern Grand Prix, seeing what kind of stuff comes out of it. Modern is always a fun format for me because there are crazy decks that show up in every single tournament. You never know what you're going to see.
Last time it was Malirapod that took it down, but I don't think it's ever been the same deck twice since Modern's been a thing.
I'm not sure if I've seen crazier decks in Modern or just crazier weird things people have done in Modern Masters Limited.
Yeah.
Either way, I've seen some crazy things.
We've seen some crazy stuff just today.
Right. Even in the last round, we saw Kiki Jiki copying Penumbra Spider
over
and over to keep getting 2/4s over and over.
Oh, man. Yeah. How do you get through that?
So Madison had stolen his opponent's Penumbra Spider with Vedalken Shackles and then kept Kiki Jikiing it to make 2/4 tokens over and over and over again.
Oh, he seemed like such a nice guy when I was watching, but that's pretty mean.
And going back to the Shackles again, Shackles is particularly brutal against Neal Oliver's deck because so many of his creatures are small.
They're all tiny. He plays a ton of 1/1s.
Right. And
all right, here it is. Players are looking at their opening hands here. Neal Oliver up a game in the finals. He is just 1 game away from being a champion. I don't know if you guys mentioned this on the stream earlier, but All right, this looks like a Moth Dust Changeling here for Neal. He started this tournament 0-1 with no buys.
Yeah, you told me that earlier. That's insane.
Unbelievable. No buys. He won every single match. He got to that last match, and he shook his opponent's hand to ID into the top 8 here. I've never heard of any. That is just absolutely absurd.
He hasn't lost a match since, like, what, 10 a.m. yesterday, probably 11 a.m. yesterday?
Yes, and I mean, can you imagine losing your first round of this GP and being like, well, boys, we got to win out. And then doing it. It's just incredible.
And now this field of 4,500 has been whittled down to just 2 players.
Yes.
Soon 1, and he's one of them. What a crazy run for Neal Oliver.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And his signature card, Moth Dust Changeling, is getting in there. He has done so much work with that card over the matches that I've seen here in the final or in the top 8.
And a slightly more conventional card there, Pirate Spellbomb he just cast, goes along very nicely with the Auriok Salvagers sitting in Neal's deck.
Yeah, he said that he used that to win his quarterfinal match.
Very strong combo. Back in Mirrodin it was completely insane, and here it's still just as good.
Yeah. He's going to go to combat, and Madison says, all right. He's going to attack in there for 1 now. I think that Neal's got a Spell Stutter Sprite in his hand here. Oh, but he's also got a Pestermite, and he's going to use it to tap down something.
And that'll slow Madison down just a little bit.
All right, so Erratic Mutation on the Pestermite. He's going to start flipping cards. He's going to hit an Ephemeron, so more than enough.
That's a very dead Pestermite. That's one squashed fairy.
It is. Now, Madison Jonas, you know, maybe he had other plans for the turn, but he was able to use up his mana for this turn, which he's got to be happy about. He draws a sudden shock, and he says pass and forgets to play his land for the turn.
Does he forget, or do you think he's trying to bluff his opponent?
No, he said pass.
No, I mean,
no, he said pass-er.
Oh.
Pass-er. Go ahead. So he definitely forgot. And, you know, that happens sometimes when a whole lot of things happen during the upkeep.
Right, exactly. And especially in the finals of a Grand Prix this size, you've got to be a little nervous.
He's got to be super nervous. Now, there's a Traumatic Visions that's going to hit the bin, and he's going to play his planes right away here. I saw Madison Jonas make a similar verbal error in the other game where his opponent played a big dragon, and he said sure and then went wait because he had Logic Knot in his hand. Now, it ended up working out for him, but he's got to be careful with that. He draws a Sense Enlistment, plays a land.
And there's Grand Arbiter Augustin. Note that on Neal's turn, he hooked that Bone Splitter up to the Moth Dust Changeling.
And got in there for damage.
Like you said last match, that was what did it, was the Bone Splitter on the Changeling.
Yeah, this was exactly it. Now, Neal is going to need another creature here in order to give that Moth Dust Changeling flying. He also could offer to trade it off for the Arbiter. And it looks like that's what he's going to do here. He might not have a choice in the matter either.
Yeah, that Arbiter can cause huge headaches, you know, making Neal spells cost 1 more and helping Madison cast his spells for a lot cheaper.
And Madison seems to value that Arbiter. He says, no, I'm going to take it. You're fine. And I think that we're going to see... Oh, is it another Traumatic Visions being cycled here?
Land cycling another Traumatic Visions, getting a plains.
He must figure, look, I'm not going to be able to cast this thing until I'm on 6 mana if he's not willing to trade off that Arbiter, so I might as well just cash it in and build up my mana so I can cast my other spells. All right, Madison's attacking.
All right, he's on the aggressive with the Grand Arbiter. Looking at his hand, he's got a Bound in Silence, a Sudden Shock, a Sense Enlistment, a couple more cards hiding there in the back.
He's going to play Sense Enlistment for 3 mana. That's going to lock down the ground game against that pesky Moth Dust Changeling, but it still means that if Neal Oliver finds any creature, he can tap it to give that thing flying and get in for damage. And the clock is ticking on Madison Jonas. He's sitting at 12 life. If Neal Oliver finds something, he can get him down to 9. He's got a Pyrite Spellbomb on the table and another one in his hand. That puts him at a virtual 5, and he's getting close to dead there.
Wow. It's amazing how much work Neal Oliver can do with just a Moth Dust Changeling.
This is what all of his games have looked like. I don't know how he does it.
Now Madison has a Sudden Shock there, which can take care of that Moth Dust Changeling.
Yeah.
But still, that's a lot of damage he's dealt.
Here's a Spell Stutter Sprite on end step, so that is a creature that he can use to give the Moth Dust Changeling flying, but like you said, Sudden Shock should take care of it.
I think I see a Flicker Wisp in Neal Oliver's hand as well, in case he wants to add 3 more points of flying power to the board.
He does. He's got a Flicker Wisp, a Pyrite Spellbomb, and a Bound in Silence in his hand.
Of course, he has to weigh that option against, do I want to Bound in Silence anything? Probably not. Do I want to activate the Spellbomb? Probably not. I think Flicker Wisp is just what you want to do here.
I think so too. And you can kill a token with it too.
You can also tap the Flicker Wisp to give the Changeling flying.
Yeah, you're right. Targeting a token. And he says, yep, that happens. So tap this, give this thing flying, and attack you for 4. This can bring him down to 8, but we know that Sudden Shock's going to take out the Changeling. But that's going to leave Flicker Wisp sitting there, ready to carry that Bone Splitter, and I think that we're going to see an equip here probably.
Unless he wants to keep maybe one open to Pirate Spellbomb something potentially.
Yeah, he could.
Interesting.
I don't know if he's going to anticipate needing to do that on, like, he knows he's going to be equipping, you know, so it makes sense to spend that mana that you know you're going to be spending.
Yeah.
Where he can do stuff on his turn. It's not like he's going to blow out Madison Jonas or something by, you know, getting his Kithkin in response or something. So also it protects it. Now I don't know if Neal is aware that Madison has Vidalcan Shackles in his deck, but it could protect a card from that.
Yeah, I totally agree, Martian. As you see, he hooks the Bone Splitter right up to the Spell Stutter Sprite there.
He's diversifying his threats. He's got 2 3-power flyers in the air, plus 2 damage sitting on the table in the form of a Pyrite Spellbomb. He's not going to cast the other one because A, he couldn't that turn with only 1 mana, and B, you kind of want to keep that information hidden.
Right, hidden information can go a long way. Magic is partially about that.
Yep. All right, attack for 3 for Madison. 2 mana. Bound in Silence on the Flicker Wisp.
All right, so that'll slow Neal Oliver down a little bit, but he still has 3 power in the air with that Spell Stutter Sprite plus Bone Splitter.
Yeah. Now, how many cards does Madison have in his hand here? 3?
3 cards. Yeah.
All right. So he could definitely have another burn spell here. He's got 3 mana up, so he can cast pretty much any of the burn spells in his deck, thanks to Grand Arbiter here.
And he just takes the 3. I mean, you mentioned at the start of this weekend about how you thought Bone Splitter was one of the better commons.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it do incredible work in Neal Oliver's hands, just turning his 1/1s into 3-power creatures.
I don't think I've seen it used better than by Neal Oliver. I mean, he has Moth Dust Changeling, man. I mean, I'm not saying it's the worst card in the set, but it's not one of the better ones.
My feelings exactly.
All right, so here comes the Pyrite Spellbomb, and this is after the attack from the Spell Stutter Sprite, and those Pyrite Spellbombs represent half of Madison Jonas's current life total, and he could be at 1 if he can't kill that Spell Stutter Sprite. He clearly couldn't last turn. He's got to put up something in the way that can block it, or he's going to be down to 1, and Neal Oliver has, well, he's got Lightning Helix in his deck. He's got a lot of ways he can finish off his opponent, plus that Spell Stutter Sprite.
All right, Madison gets in for 3 yet again, but Neal feeling probably feeling pretty comfortable at that 12 life.
Yeah, I mean, all right, Warspike Changeling.
All right, now if you're Neal, do you think at all about cracking the Spellbomb end step here?
I always think about it. I'm that guy. I don't know that I do it, but I certainly think about it, and it looks like he's going to. He says, look, I see the writing on the wall here.
And he does just that.
And he's just going to do one of them to bring him down to 6 here, though. All right, he draws a land for the turn. We know he still has that Bound in Silence in his hand, and he's sitting at a pretty comfortable 12 life total, and things are looking pretty good. He's down to 3. He's at a virtual 1, and Neal Oliver could be on the verge of starting this GP 0-1 with no buys, winning every single match from that point on, with the exception of the intentional draw that he took to get into the top 8.
Right, and it looks like Madison drew an island there. If he has nothing, that'll be it for Neal Oliver, and Moth Dust Changeling might just take down this tournament.
All right, attack with everybody. 3, 4, 5, 6. That's half of Neal Oliver's life total. Doesn't really have any options here.
Right. I think if you're Neal, you just take this.
Yeah.
He's going to crack the Spellbomb to kill the Kithkin token there.
Because he's convinced that Spell Stutter Stride is going to live, and he knows that he would need another card off of his deck that had evasion or that had some type of direct damage. He's playing it a little bit safe.
Going to retrace the Sen's Enlistment.
Yep.
For only 3 mana.
And he's passing the turn back. This could be it right here.
The end of the 4,500 person tournament. Is this it?
This could be it.
Is Neal Oliver about to
He just drew Lightning Helix off the top of his deck. He's got him in 2 different ways. And that's it! Neal Oliver is our champion!
Neal Oliver, your Grand Prix Las Vegas champion.
Wow!
4,500 players, narrowed down to the finals. Neal took it down, and
he cracked the format. Moth Dust Changeling, who knew?